It was long ago, a time when my life was tied to a simple, ordinary routine. I lived in a small town of Pakistan called Kundian. That town was neither very famous nor modern. Life there was still like the old days, where shops would close in. The evening, people knew each other, and the voices of children echoed in the narrow streets. My house was a single-story home, not so small that it felt cramped, and not so big that it lost its warmth. I lived there with my wife, my 2 daughters, and my son. My wife's name was Fariha. My eldest daughter, Alicia, was 7 years old, quiet, patient soul who always sacrificed her share for others. Sensitive by nature, she would cry over the smallest things. Many times she would arrange her toys in front of me as if trying to show how good she was. My son, Ion, was 5 years old, mischievous but very intelligent. And then there was my youngest daughter, Noor. She was the true light of our home, always smiling, always laughing. Sometimes she played against the wall, and sometimes she would bring me a glass of water with her tiny hands, as if presenting me with the most precious treasure in the world. Most of my life passed working in a bank, waking up at 8:30 in the morning, having breakfast, leaving by 9 o'clock, and returning home at 5 o'clock in the evening. In the early days, I was full of hope, dreaming of promotions, a higher salary, and a better life. But with time, those hopes began to fade. Years passed, yet no promotion came, no real increase in my pay. The same chair, the same desk, the same faces, the same faint smell of files. Days turned into months, months into years, and I grew weary of that monotony. When my salary wasn't enough to cover my children's school fees, and when my wife struggled to manage the budget, I began to feel like a failure inside. Eventually, I decided to leave that job behind. AI taught. It was not an easy decision, but perhaps it was necessary. Weeks passed after that. Sitting idle at home felt like torture. I would wake up late, stare at the walls, and wait at the door when my children returned from school. Those moments filled me with a strange kind of restlessness. Then, fate opened a door. Through a friend, I got a night shift job at a private company. The position was good because I already had experience. I had to leave at 5 in the evening and return at 1 at night. The salary was decent, and suddenly a new hope began to rise within me. My routine started to build again. My wife would prepare the meal. I would relax for a while, then eat and get ready for work. I kissed my children goodbye, drank the tea my wife made with her own hands, and rode off on my old but faithful motorcycle. The road was not too long, but on my return, that same road in the silence of night turned into something else entirely. By 9 o'clock, the city's markets would shut down, and when I returned home after 1 in the night, the streets were completely lifeless, like a dead city. This routine went on for many months without any disturbance. But then, one night, everything changed. AI taught. That day was just like any other. The month of October carried a soft, gentle chill in the air. When the morning sunlight entered through the window, my eyes opened on their own. A faint fragrance filled the room. Perhaps my wife was making tea, or maybe fresh bread was baking on the stove, as usual. I got up from bed and first stepped into the courtyard. Hanging over the roof was an old branch of a berry tree. On it sat a crow, cawing loudly. It wasn't new for me. I often saw it sitting there at that time in the morning. As soon as my wife noticed I was awake, she handed me a cup of tea. Drink it quickly. The children will wake up soon, and then the noise will begin, she she said. She repeated this every morning, and every morning I sipped the first taste of tea with the same smile. The children left for school. My wife got busy washing the dishes. I had to pay some bills before leaving for work, so I left the house an hour earlier than usual. As I stepped out, my wife called out something from behind me. The market was crowded, as always. I stood in a long line outside the WAPTA office to pay the bills, then came straight home. That day, my wife had cooked chicken curry. After lunch, I rested a little. Later, I had tea with her. Then around 4 o'clock, I got ready for work. I took out my old motorcycle and rode towards the office. The hours at work passed as usual, but the return that night was different. The same silent streets, the same empty alleys. But there was something unusual about that night. At 1 o'clock. When I returned, the streets were deserted, as always. Our neighborhood was on the outskirts of the city, and it was generally very quiet. Most houses were in darkness. Only a few had dim bulbs glowing outside. I stopped in front of my house, turned off the motorcycle, and, as usual, pulled the key from my pocket. Just as I slid the key into the lock of the door, Suddenly, my eyes lifted toward the rooftop. I don't know why. I had returned at this exact time many nights before, but never once did I look at the roof. Yet that night, it felt as though some unseen force had turned my neck upward. On the roof, I sensed a presence. A shadow, someone standing in silence for just a moment, and then gone. My heart began to pound violently. My hands trembled. Who could it be at that hour? Was it a thief? I couldn't understand. Somehow, I gathered myself. I pushed the motorcycle inside, shut the gate, and hurried toward the stairs. I had to check the rooftop. Each step felt heavy, as if the ground itself wanted to hold me back. While climbing, I switched on the flashlight of my mobile. At the top, complete silence. The same old cot, the same darkness. I swung the beam of light across every corner. No one. I stood there for nearly 10 minutes, looking left, looking right. Nothing. Slowly, I came back down. I said nothing to anyone. My wife was asleep. I ate quietly and lay down between my children, but sleep never came. The next day, the thought circled in my head again and again. Who was that? That night, I went to work as usual. On my return, the same silence, the same lifeless streets. When I reached the gate of my house and got off the motorcycle before pulling out the key, my eyes instantly went to the rooftop. Nothing. I pushed the motorcycle in, locked the gate, and went inside. My wife served dinner. I sat there quietly, lost in thought. And then, suddenly, an urge struck me. What if I went upstairs right now, just to look? Perhaps it was nothing. Perhaps only my imagination. So, in complete silence, I got up from bed. As soon as my feet touched the floor, the damp chill of winter seeped into my skin. The room was dark. Only a faint glow came from the corner where my mobile lay. I picked it up. For a moment, I looked at the time on the screen. It was past midnight. I switched on the light. A white glow spread through the room for a moment. The patterns on the wall, the folded clothes, the old handle of the cupboard all came to life. I walked toward the door. Each step left a faint creak on the floor. Slowly, I pressed the latch. The door opened. The courtyard was drowned in darkness. In front of me were the same old stairs. I placed my first step. The slipper scraped lightly. against the cement. The second step, my heartbeat raced faster. The third, my mobile light shone on the stair ahead, while my eyes kept scanning the walls around me. With every stair, I paused, breathed once, and climbed higher. At the fourth landing, it struck me as though someone was standing right behind me. AI tot. I froze, slowly turned back. Nothing, only silence. Just the sound of my own breath. I ran my tongue over my lips, they were dry. Then I placed my foot on the fifth step, the sixth step, the seventh. By now, my head had reached the level of the rooftop. I lifted the light of my mobile upward for a moment. A part of the roof lit up in the beam dot. My feet froze to the ground. My breath caught in my chest. My eyes landed on the cot. It was right there in front of me, maybe 8 or 9 steps away. The moonlight spread across the roof as though someone had poured diluted milk across the ground. And in that dim silver glow, the cot sat, a presence. Not a person. Not at first. At first it only looked like a shadow. No clear face. Just a hunched, knotted figure, bent forward. Both hands perhaps resting on its knees. Motionless, completely still. Inside me, every noise had died. AI tot. I could not even hear my heartbeat, nor the whisper of the wind. There was nothing. Nothing except that sight and my eyes fixed entirely upon it. I tried to wet my lips, but my tongue felt glued to the roof of my mouth. Who is that? The words rose inside me, but never escaped. My voice stuck in my throat. Only a faint puff of breath slipped past my lips, as though my heart wanted to speak, but could not. The figure made no move. It remained there, hunched, its back curved, its head lowered. A moment passed, then another. Then the faintest twitch, so subtle that if my eyes hadn't been locked onto it, I would never have noticed. Slowly, ever so slowly, the figure's head began to rise, inch by inch, so painfully slow it felt as if a century passed with every movement. My breath was trapped. I stood frozen, lifeless, every muscle stiff with dread. AI tot. The moonlight shifted slightly, and now the face, if it could be called, that began to emerge into view. But it was no face. Not a face at all. It was a void, a black emptiness. There might have been eyes, but they were hollow, like bottomless wells. The nose, the mouth, they had form, but in a way that seemed melted, like a wax figure half destroyed by fire. And then suddenly the figure snapped upright on the cot. AI tot. The ground beneath my feet seemed to shudder. My heart missed several beats at once. My mobile was still in my hand, but I couldn't look at it, couldn't even move it. Only one thought pounded in my mind. Is this a dream, or something else? The figure now sat completely straight, its melted face turned directly toward me. It looked like something from the jinn stories I had heard in my childhood. For a few moments, silence stretched between us. Just meandered.
Then suddenly, I don't know what happened after that. All I remember is that the figure sat upright on the cot, staring straight at me. And the moment its shadowed face turned fully toward me, it felt as if life drained out of my body. Darkness swallowed my eyes. AI tot. When I opened them again, it was morning, but I wasn't on the roof, nor in my room. I was lying on a hospital bed. My vision was blurred, but through the haze, I saw worried faces standing around me, my wife, my brother, and behind them, a neighbor. I tried to move my lips, but no sound came out. My tongue felt numb. My brother asked what had happened, but I could not speak. I just closed my eyes in silence. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days. The doctors said it was a shock to the brain, perhaps a terrible nightmare, or some incident. Maybe I had fallen in my sleep, but only I knew the truth. This was no dream. I had seen it, that presence, that being, and I knew it could return. AI. ... After coming back from the hospital, I never went to the rooftop again. I didn't even stand near the window at night. For months, I kept the lights on in my room. I stopped going to work at night too. Instead, I requested day shifts, because my family refused to stay alone in that house after dark. A few months later, we said goodbye to that house forever and moved into a new home. Today, as I write this story, I am sitting on the roof, but in this house, nothing strange has ever happened. Life seems to have shown me mercy at last. And yet, that old house, that rooftop, that one night I can never forget. AI. ... This is not just the story of an ordinary man. It is the story of that night, when the line between dream and reality disappeared. When a man's courage was crushed beneath the weight of a shadow. And I believe at least once in every life such a moment comes. A moment when you feel what you saw was not just imagination. Tell me, have you ever felt something like this? Has anything ever happened to you that you still cannot explain? Write it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for the next story.